They say every empire falls from within. Egypt learned this the hard way. And it all started with a man who had nothing left to lose. His name was Ahmose, but history doesn't remember him as a hero. They remember him as a slave who destroyed a god. Ahmose wasn't always a slave. 20 years before our story begins, he was a scribe, educated, respected. He worked in the House of Life, the sacred library where Egypt's greatest secrets were kept. Mathematical formulas, astronomical charts, medical texts that could cure diseases the Greeks wouldn't understand for another 1,000 years. But most importantly, he knew the secret. The one thing that kept Pharaoh Khafre on his throne. The one lie that made him a god in the eyes of millions. And when Ahmose discovered it by accident, copying forbidden scroll late one night, everything changed. Because Pharaoh Khafre didn't become a living god through divine right. He became one through murder. 3 days after Ahmose read that scroll, soldiers came to his home. They didn't arrest him, took everything. His wife, his 2 sons, his position, his name. And when Ahmose demanded to know why, the captain whispered 5 words that turned his blood to ice. You read what you shouldn't. Overnight, Ahmose the scribe became Ahmose the slave. His family, sent to the limestone quarries in the south. A death sentence in everything but name. And Ahmose himself was assigned to the one place Pharaoh could watch him personally. The construction site of the Great Pyramid at Giza. The monument that would make Khafre immortal. The same monument Ahmose would help destroy. For 15 years, Ahmose said nothing. He hauled stones under the brutal sun. He watched men die from exhaustion. He felt his body break down, piece by piece. But he never forgot what he'd read. Pharaoh Khafre wasn't the rightful heir to the throne. He was the younger brother. And the true Pharaoh, his older brother, Giza, hadn't died of fever like the official story claimed. He'd been poisoned. By Khafre's own hand. The scroll Ahmose had found was a confession. Written by a priest who'd witnessed it. Hidden away because destroying it would have been sacrilege, but revealing it would have been treason. And so it sat in the archives, waiting, until a curious scribe stumbled upon it. Everything changed when the Greek traders arrived. In his 16th year of slavery, Ahmose was assigned to a crew transporting granite from the Nile docks to the pyramid site. And that's where he met him. A merchant from Athens named Thales. Young, idealistic, obsessed with Egyptian wisdom. Thales would sit by the docks for hours, sketching the pyramids, asking workers questions about mathematics and engineering. Most ignored him, but Ahmose saw an opportunity. One evening, as the sun set over the Nile, Ahmose approached. You want to know Egypt's greatest secret? Ahmose asked in broken Greek, and that's when Ahmose made his choice. The plan was simple. Thales would return to Athens and spread the story among Greek scholars and politicians. Once it became known outside Egypt, the truth would be undeniable. Khafre's reign would crumble. Foreign allies would withdraw support. The priests would be forced to acknowledge the deception. But there was one problem. Thales needed proof, and the only proof that existed was a scroll Ahmose had read 2 decades ago. Still hidden in the House of Life, still under guard, still punishable by death to even touch. Ahmose knew what he had to do. He had to go back. On the night of the new moon, when darkness covered Giza like a shroud, Ahmose made his move. He slipped away from the slave quarters, entered the city through a drainage channel he'd helped design 20 years ago. His heart pounded with every step. If he was caught, it wouldn't just be his death. They'd make an example of him, crucify him in the plaza, parade his body through the streets. But as he climbed through the ventilation shaft into the archive room, as he found the scroll exactly where he'd left it 2 decades before, as his trembling hands rolled it tight and tucked it into his tunic, he felt something he hadn't felt in 16 years. Hope. He almost made it out. Almost. The guard captain who'd arrested him all those years ago was waiting at the entrance. Hello, Ahmose, the captain said calmly. I've been expecting you. 'Cause I was there the night Prince Giza died. I stood guard outside his chamber. I heard him scream. I heard him beg. His voice broke. And I did nothing. He pressed a small leather pouch into Ahmose's hand. Silver coins. Take this. It'll get you across the border. Find your Greek friend. Tell the world. Ahmose's throat tightened. My family. Already freed. The captain interrupted. I arranged it last week. They are waiting in Memphis. A merchant will take you to them. 3 months later, Pharaoh stood in the Athenian assembly, holding a scroll before Greece's greatest minds. He told them everything. The murdered pharaoh, the poisoned wine, the 20-year lie. And he showed them the proof, written in the hand of Egypt's own priests. The story spread like wildfire. From Athens to Sparta, from Persia to Phoenicia, within a year, every kingdom bordering Egypt knew the truth. Khafre's divine status crumbled. Trade agreements fell apart. Revolts erupted in the southern provinces. The pharaoh who tried to build a monument to his own immortality watched his empire fracture before his eyes. And in Memphis, a former slave named Ahmose held his wife and son for the first time in 16 years. History doesn't record what happened to Ahmose after that. Some say he lived out his days in peace. Others claim he was assassinated by Khafre's loyalists. But we know what happened to the truth. Khafre died 12 years later, his reputation destroyed. His pyramid, meant to stand as proof of his divinity, became a monument to his shame. The priests erased his name from temples. His successors refused to acknowledge his reign. And the scroll that started it all? It disappeared again. Some say the priests destroyed it to bury the scandal forever. Others believe it's still out there, hidden, waiting. But here's what we do know. One man, one impossible choice, one secret, and an empire that learned the hardest lesson in history. No throne is strong enough to survive the truth, even if that truth comes from a slave. Please subscribe to History Tales, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent.